Congress has passed, and the president has just signed today, a spending bill that will keep the government open and funded through next September. Trace Gallagher has been following this story from the very beginning. He's got the latest. Hey, Trace.
Hey, Tucker, the big ticket items are, one, the military. $700 billion goes for defense spending, which is $61 billion higher than last year, and the biggest defense boost in 15 years, which is why, after threatening a veto, the president ended up signing the bill. Then there's $591 billion for domestic programs, including money for road building and water projects, along with NASA, the FBI, and the IRS, and $5 billion to battle opioid abuse, up from $2 billion last year. There's also $4 million for anti-harassment training for lawmakers and congressional aides. President Trump wanted $25 billion to build the border wall. He got $1.6 billion. There's $380 million to improve election security, and much to the dismay of conservatives, the bill also continues federal funding of Planned Parenthood. And if you missed it, GOP Senator Rand Paul was on a Twitter tear, tweeting things like the sheer size of the bill and that it funds, quote, $12 million for scholarships for Lebanon, $20 million for Middle East Partnership Initiative scholarship programs, $12 million in military funding for Vietnam, $3.5 million for nutrition assistance to Laos, $15 million in developmental assistance to China, and $10 million for women law enforcement officers in Afghanistan. And that, Tucker, is your budget roundup for this Friday. Tucker.
Thanks, Trace. President Trump criticized today's budget bill even as he signed it. The deal is suboptimal, he suggested. It's certainly expensive. The legislation will trigger a $1 trillion deficit or come very close to that. That's great news here in D.C., by the way. The Range Rover dealership outside Washington is probably packed even now at this hour as lobbyists and contractors reward themselves for a job well done. They just got a massive raise. It's party time in D.C. There's an awful lot of pork in this thing. Given the cost, you'd think at the very least the bill would fund the critical needs of our country. Does it do that? Not even close. The legislation signed today is pretty much the opposite of what America voted for in 2016. The bill actively restricts the hiring of additional ICE agents for immigration enforcement. It caps the number of illegals ICE can detain at any one time. Ostensibly, it allocates $1.6 billion for border security. You may have heard that. What you may not know is that that money is explicitly prohibited from being spent on any kind of border wall, the wall that voters asked for in the last election. Now, Republicans may have found extra wall money by, I don't know, cutting funds to those sanctuary cities that are actively undermining federal law. But they didn't do that. Sanctuary cities will continue to be subsidized just as they always have been. And so, by the way, will the abortion enthusiasts at Planned Parenthood. Republicans repeatedly promised to defund Planned Parenthood, remember? But they're not. They're awarding Planned Parenthood another $500 million in tax dollars. In other words, nothing's changed. It's just gotten a lot worse. The message to the rest of us could not be clearer. Congress does not care about the territorial integrity of the country it runs. The people in charge of both major parties are committed to making sure that we never have meaningful borders of any kind. Anyone who manages to get here will get a job, welfare, health care, education, forever. Meanwhile, middle America continues to die. Those are Congress's priorities. Though in fairness, the bill actually does pay for border security, just not here in America. Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, Tunisia, they all get American tax dollars to deal with their immigration problems. And congratulations. Also included in the bill is a $10 million chunk to hire female law enforcement in Afghanistan. $10 million for disadvantaged students in Egypt, not Egypt, Maine, Egypt, the country. $12 million to boost the military capacity of Vietnam. And how about China? Our greatest geopolitical and economic rival. Well, the bill gives the Chinese $15 million in development aid, some of which are go to promoting yak herding in Tibet. And on top of all of that, Congress gave itself a pay raise, needless to say. We'd love to have a Republican member of Congress on to explain why exactly we're sending money to China, which is rapidly overtaking us economically. But somehow we can't find any money to secure American borders. And we asked more than a dozen members of Congress to come on the show tonight. They all refused. And of course, you can see why. But here's an idea. Any member of Congress who supports sending tax dollars to China ought to resign from Congress tonight and give up his pension. That's a betrayal of our country. If only we knew who put that in the bill. It's a secret, of course. Members of Congress may not protect you, but they definitely protect each other. We do know that Paul Ryan signed off on that. Of course he did. Well, we're told we need this bill because of national security. But how secure is a nation that has no borders? Well, about as secure as a political party that has no rationale for existing, that treats its own voters like dupes and fools, that ignores election results like they didn't happen. Parties like that don't last long, and they shouldn't.